wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Alright, Tetris is loaded in the Super Game Boy in the Super Retro Trio SNES slot. So let's try this sucker out. Genesis and SNES. Through the S-Video. This will be the first time I've loaded anything from the Super Game Boy in quite some time, and we are up and running. Nice. Applying some pre-picked colors here, but let's do this for colors instead. This is the cream spinach Game Boy we're talking about after all. Yay! I don't know. This actually looks kind of better than the NES version. Should I even track down the NES version? Actually, the NES version's on sale at the secondhand place. If they've got a copy that's not so ratty, I might pick it up. Yay! Haven't seen that in a long time. I don't know why my folks gave away all my Game Boy stuff, but then again, my folks never knew why my grandparents gave away my dad never knew why, well, no, I don't know. It's just a parent thing, you know. People think that their kids outgrew something or something like that. Yeah, double! There's something I haven't heard in a long time. Here's a screen I haven't seen in a long time. Hit start to continue game. And of course we have the little Mario Paint thing. For those that, you know, just couldn't get enough Mario Paint. Yay! Oh wait, that's right. Oh, you can draw around the game. That's right. Been a long time. Oh wait, that stays as the background. It's been a while since I've used a Super Game Boy. So we have this. What kind of stuff did we have on here again? So we had this. And some people, you know, they'd pick backgrounds that would give the illusion of more colors. So if they were playing in green mode, oh, look at all the kitties. What were all these? Hey, let's have a little red. I don't know, this is going to be, ooh, is it MC Escher or something like that? One of those optical illusion paintings. I haven't seen one of those in a while. I think this is the, yep, that's, well, I haven't had, this Super Game Boy hasn't had anything to play in it for a while, so I haven't seen it in a very long time, so. Yay, movie theater! Because everyone would pack into a theater to see Tetris. What's this? This is some kind of, is this? What's this? I don't know what that frowny face thingy is. The wood panel thing. And this is also the sort of thing where if you were playing with like a green color scheme, you could pick something similar and it would create like an optical illusion of more things. Okay, that's type A, type A, type B. You got your controls there as well. So, back to the game. Now I can't put anything in the side except for, and I don't have the stuff to do a full Tetris. Okay. I'd say it definitely works. Now let's fire up the Super Retro Advance without the cable and see what that looks like coming out in S-Video. Okay, the Super Retro Advance is something else altogether. The good news is that I almost thought I needed the cable, but you don't apparently need it with the Super Retro Trio because it does use the right pins in order to function that way. However, there is what appears to be a little bit of a boot time. So I just started it up. You don't get the ding Game Boy thing like you're starting a real Game Boy, and then eventually you get the warning in health and safety. Now here's the interesting part. Even though this is hooking into a Super Retro Trio and using that system's, it's piggybacking on that system and going out through the AV cables of the Super Retro Trio, the video signal only goes out on the AV channel. It's not going out on S-Video. So, which I don't really have a problem with because the S-Video doesn't look so good on the Genesis side and the Genesis side, the NES side. And I think it's because S-Video came out after, I believe, the Genesis and the NES hit the market. The video standard wasn't developed until around the Super Nintendo's time. Anyway, so we're going to fire up some Final Fantasy VI Advance. And coming out of the AV inputs, it does kind of look a little worse than the Super Nintendo version would, because the Super Nintendo version's a little loud. Because the Super Nintendo version's quality would get improved a bit, going from AV composite to S-video. And there's a little bit of a brightness to it. Like, this should be dark with, like, thunder and stuff like that, but it's kind of brightened up. Almost like you turn the brightness up too high on something. But this is the advanced version, obviously. I'm not messing around with the Super Nintendo version or something like that. But yeah, here's the games that I've been playing. Oh, and the thing can't even focus. Oh, there we go. So, it doesn't even matter that I'm doing this in camcorder Let's Play mode, because it's fuzzy on the TV. The Super Nintendo version of this game would look better, or I could get the PS1 version in, I believe, one of those compilation FF games. But this technically counts as a way to play this game on the big screen. And I think, too, that some of the sound effects are getting messed up, too. Like, if we turn the volume up here, when I kill that guy, it's going to make something that sounds like an Atari. So I think there might be some sound issues with this adapter. Now, it's good to see that it's working, though, even if I did have to switch to the clunky chair in order to get this to work. Oh, cool. Save and learn regen. Alright. Yeah, I could be further in this game than I am, but hey, quick save time! And let's, yeah. Let's mess around and see if we can get regular Game Boy games working in this thing. I don't think the regular Game Boy games are going to work, but, No dice. This is what happens when you put a regular Game Boy game inside a Super Retro Advance. You either get no signal or this white screen of death. So, no. Unfortunately, this does not share the actual Game Boy Advance's way of emulating stuff like that. Interestingly enough, though, the signal looks a little bit better using the AV cable. I'm testing this with the AV cable to see if maybe it was the cable that was the issue. There does seem to be something resembling a boot time, or having to press a button on the controller in order to get this thing going, but it's definitely a little bit pokey. Okay, there we go. And interestingly enough, the signal actually looks a little bit clearer, just a tad bit clearer, over the direct-out AV cable instead of piggybacking through the Retro Trio. However, this is Final Fantasy V Advance. I don't really think that this is really going to compete very well with the Retron 5's Game Boy Advance player. It is kind of like a second banana, so to speak, but at least with the Super Retro Advance you can actually get this working in a Super Nintendo or something like that. Yay! Let's actually load the game here. Still fuzzy. I'd still say that the Super Nintendo version of this would look better. So, but at least it's the Game Boy Advance. And if you got some Game Boy Advance games lying around that you want to play on a big screen, oh man, 4 red mages. This is exactly like my Final Fantasy III group on the PC, except they can't hit anything. Oh, okay, sometimes they hit things. Let's kill these guys off. So yeah, it plays the games, but it's a step down visuals-wise from, regardless of whether you use the cable or not, it's a step down from the visuals that you would get from Super Nintendo games on the Super Retro Trio. And the cord length is a little short, too. You probably need some RCA extender cables if your system wasn't right next to your television. So, the AV cables that go out the back of the Super Retro Trio are actually longer than the cables that come out of the Super Retro Advance that go straight to the TV. Oh, okay, there we go. Yay! Everybody dance to the Final Fantasy music. Actually, the sound sounds okay for something that was originally composed for a little handheld, and crappy handheld speakers or crappy headphones. I don't know if there's very much that my sound system can do to make this sound any better. Alright. Oh, this is right after the fireplace. Oh yeah, right after the fire temple gets destroyed, I think. That's where I am here. Quick save! So, the Super Retro Advance is kinda clunky. It could use some improvements here and there. Sometimes it is a bit of a trick to get the games working, but they eventually do work. And what happens if you unplug the AV cable? Does it flip over? Let's just leave it running. Will it actually fail over, as some IT folks would put it? Will it actually fail over to the other system if you pull the cable while it's on? Yes, there is some kind of failover functionality. Sweet! So if you unplug the cable while it's on, it does fail over, so to speak, to the Retro Trio's outputs. So it works, and you need the cable if you're using something like an original Super Nintendo, but I'd say the Retron 5 probably has some better looking visuals with some upscaling and things like that. Anyways, that's enough of that. Alright, now for your comparison purposes, here's Kablooey going through the S video from the Super Nintendo part here. Much, much sharper image. Even in camcorder Let's Play mode, you can see that it's way clearer. Matter of fact, I can see a little bit of checkerboard pattern, so maybe it's a little too clear. Alright, let's play this sucker. We'll just go through one of the stages. I mean, this game is hard to explain. It's an action puzzle game. Oh, look, game instructions. You win the stage when you explode all of the bombs. And whatever. It does have passwords, but one thing with these password games, have your digital camera handy and snap a television, or selfie, snap a picture of the screen. So you're this blue guy. You basically have to blow up the bombs without getting yourself blown up. So it's a little trickier. You do have to think about how the bombs affect everything and how much they blow up. But yeah, it's a cutesy little action puzzle game, and it's definitely something besides falling blocks or falling pills or falling whatever. You get extra bonus points when you finish the stage as well.
Player 1, get ready.
Get ready! Yeah. Alright, let's get blown up here. Oh no! Yeah. Play more of this game later on. There's some Let's Plays of this game if you want to see, this game in action. But the problem with Let's Playing a puzzle game like this is that it spoils all the puzzles. Anywho, let's fire up Mickey Mania on the Genesis part of the Super Retro Trio. And first things first, I mentioned in the Ashen's parody overview of this product that, well, that sounds kind of generic. I mentioned the Ashen's parody overview of this game machine, or this product, this game box, whatever you want to call it. The cartridge connectors were a little loose, where they weren't loose, but they were just right. They weren't like way too tight and had a death grip on your games. The Genesis connector on mine is very tight. A little hard to insert the games, and it takes a little bit of effort to pull them out too. So you worry if you're going to break the Genesis connector trying to put it in. But let's switch this on to Genesis mode, switch back to Genesis controllers. Now, the problem here is that S-Video doesn't look as good as it could. But instead of getting checkerboard patterns, I kind of get little lines going down the screen. We'll probably notice this a little more when we actually get into the Steamboat Willie scene. Yay! Mickey and Pluto! One of the few games that I actually want to play on the Genesis in cart form. No thanks to that Sega Genesis thingy that... Well, listen to the hum, too. The sound output's a little soft. But yeah, you can sort of see the bars. Maybe when the scene loads. There we go. Yeah! The other two buttons are jump. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it on here. Maybe if I zoom in towards Mickey and do some jumping. Oh, there we go. Yeah, see, you can see the lines through them. So sometimes you get checkerboard, sometimes you get lines. And let's switch over to AV2. Time to charge the batteries in this remote, and that fixes it and smooths everything out. So let's just zoom out here, and that's not too bad looking. Zoom back in. That's not too bad. Yay! And the cat fell down into the steamboat. So there's a stage in this game for all the major Mickey movies between the 20s and the 90s. So this is the Steamboat Willie one, there's one for Mickey and the Beanstalk, things like that. There's Let's Plays and Long Plays in this game too if you want to see it without actually playing through it. So, yeah, so unfortunately the problem with the Super Retro Trio is that I can really only play the Super Nintendo in S-Video mode. Genesis and NES have to be dropped to regular composite out. So I'd say that the Retron 5 probably has the advantage when it comes to presentation, because not only does it upscale everything, it also has enhancers like the kinds you'd see on an emulator. Wow, that's a lot of hum coming from the amplifier. It might be because I have volume leveling turned on the AV receiver, so of course the hum goes away. Yep, the hum goes away when the game continues, but if you shut everything up, start hearing the stuff over the over this stuff. Anyways, that's enough Mickey Mouse for one day. Let's put everything back and wrap everything up. So the Super Retro Advance, it works, but it's kind of clunky. I think one of the other issues I might have been having is that I had the S-Video plugged in when you're trying to piggyback off of the built-in graphics in the Super Retro Trio. I think maybe having your S-Video plugged in could cause issues where there's things a little confused about whether you're on the right source or not. But however, I was able to get it working. You can fix that just by unplugging the S-Video from the back of the unit and just leaving the composite plugged in. But I'll have to play around with that to see if maybe there's some more nuance to this whole ordeal. Some more good news out of this whole thing. I found out while playing around with these Game Boy games for the first time in a while that there is a use for my Game Boy Advance. It plays, now we know the Game Boy Advance plays, interesting, last time it stretched the screen. We do know that Game Boy Advance plays original Game Boy games. Actually, I like what it does to Nintendo World Cup here. Look at how it colored everything in. Of course, that's what the Game Boy Color did, so... However, yeah, turn this off before the battery goes dead. I just learned today that even though the Nintendo DS does play Game Boy Advance games in its bottom slot, Game Boy games don't even go in. They get stuck. So yeah, I do have a use for this GBA, to play these games on the road on. So cool! I'll charge this thing back up and try and get a new battery for it. And I'll end up holding on to it after all. Yay! So this has been an interesting renaissance. Relaunching my Game Boy collection gives me a reason to keep the Super Game Boy around and introduces me to the wonderful world of the Super Retro Advance. But unfortunately, it looks like I now have two games to really tear apart and clean up, and I'm going to have an uploading marathon going on this weekend, playing a little bit of catch-up with all the stuff I have to upload. Yeah! Big, huge series. I don't know when you're going to finally see this, but hey, it was recorded on Friday, whenever now happens to be by the time this finally goes live. So I'm going to get to work on that. Although with all the games I'm going to be messing around with this weekend, I think I've got plenty to play while the internet's tied up for the better part of the weekend. Oh well. Now to deal with Dirty Bike 64 next. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.